Radio Bypass, bringing you rock and roll music that deserves to be heard. Discover new bands. Here's some old favorites on Radio Bypass.
Radio Bypass is committed to bringing you rock and roll music that deserves to be heard and bring you occasional conversations with the talented musicians creating the music. Today, we are pleased to be joined by bassist Bob Madsen of the band the Grafenberg Disciples. How are you, Bob?
Doing good. And yourself?
Doing well, thank you. Nice day, sun's out, can't complain.
Oh, yeah.
So, Bob, your band is kind of new to our audience. You have a new single out, Cry a Million Tears, which we did play on our weekly music show, not this past Saturday, but the week before that.
Okay.
Beautiful piece of music. So I definitely want to talk about that and the upcoming album that will be part of. But first, since you're new to us, I'd like you to kind of talk about the band. What's the origin of the band? A name that was part of the project. But I'm curious if he's a permanent member. Is somebody a lot of our audience will know is your drummer, Greg Bissonette. So tell us about the origin of the band.
This actually was something of a bucket list band for me that I wanted to use to be able to write just any type of music that I really wanted to write. There's no real parameters on it, no real restrictions. So we just go for it. So I pulled together a bunch of guys that are some of the best in the business. Obviously, Greg Bissonette is the drummer on the project. Greg and I have done about 5 or 6 albums together. He's just wonderful to work with. And then the songwriting sessions all came down to Chad Quist, who tours with Heart by Heart, and Jerry Merrill, who has run a bunch of studios in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, I should say.
Right.
And we wrote a bunch of stuff specifically for this one vocalist. In the Sacramento area, Northern California, there is this sort of hidden gem. His name is Hans Eberbach, and he just is amazing. At times he can sound like Peter Gabriel or Peter Cox from Go West or Terrence Trent D'Arby. He's got this mass of all these different influences and can do amazing things in the R&B and blue-eyed soul vein.
Mm-hmm.
He's the leader of a local band called Joy and Madness, which is an 8-piece horn band. And anybody that's in the Sacramento area, if you get a chance to go see these guys, it is absolutely a show to be seen.
I'm in. I'm going.
And so we just wrote a bunch of songs that, we just sort of tried this and we tried this and hey, let's try a samba. Okay, let's go. And we did a samba. There actually is a samba on the first album. It was just an awful lot of fun. And then we had so much fun during the pandemic recording this, okay, which we kind of screwed up a little bit and released an album during the pandemic just because, well, we didn't know.
What do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we then started work on the new album, which is called Breathing Through My Ears, and it'll be out April 7th in all the various places, everywhere you want, everywhere you listen to music, everywhere you buy music, it'll be available. And now we've got a number of videos in the can ready to go for promotion of the album. And this is our first single and video for the new album, Breathing Through My Ears, and it's a song called Cry a Million Tears.
Yes. And that song is the one that we played a couple of weeks ago. Beautiful song. And you mentioned your singer, and what I got out of that song, just a very emotional vocal. You really feel it. And what I love about his voice, there's grit in the voice and soul in the voice. And those influences you just mentioned that he has, I didn't necessarily pick up on those, but I did hear, for me, a little bit of Richie Kotzen's singing style in his.
Yes, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and I think it's a matter of Richie listening to the same kinds of guys that Hans listens to, like Sam Cooke, Stevie Wonder, a bunch of the R&B greats.
Right.
Yeah.
He's definitely got that blue-eyed soul, but with some grit, and that's a combination you don't always get. You get the real smooth, or you get the gritty, but it's not too often that the two come together in one throat. And like I say, the lyrics to that song, and the way he sings it, I know you have a video for it. I always like to listen to music first without a video. I don't want any images in my head. I want my own brain to
Your
listen
own movie.
exactly.
Yes.
And what's that song? How's it speaking to me? That's how I like to consume my music. And then later on, I'm happy to see what the artist's concept was for what they wrote. But I like to just check it out myself and what does it make me think? What does it make me feel? And that song, it's just beautiful. I mean, I don't necessarily, I didn't come to a strong conclusion of what all it means beside the basic meanings, but because of the way he sings it and the way the music flows, kind of the arrangement of the song, it hits you in your heart, you know, and deep in your soul. It's just really beautifully done.
Well, thank you. The song was originally intended, what I wanted to do was sort of a classic breakup song, but I wanted to give it a few little twists. I'm heavily influenced by progressive rock, bands like Rush and Marillion and Saga and things like that. And the singer from Marillion, his name is Fish, or his real name is Derek Dick, is a fantastic Scottish poet. And I wanted to write a song that would have his flavor of lyrics, but then put it on an R&B bed and sort of create this sort of classic breakup song. The funniest thing that I heard was a DJ a couple weeks ago told me, well, this is not going to be any candidate for the feel good song of the year. And I thought,
why is that? Okay. Why is that? Because it doesn't have to make you feel bad.
Well, he just said it just was really sad.
It's relatable. It's relatable.
Definitely. Yeah. And then the fun thing is that when, you know, we recorded the song and we knew we had something. There was something really special about this one. And so we were going to use it as a single. And then we were able to, through this wonderful line producer that I'm working with, Arlene Barshinger, we were able to hire this really well-known actress, Eve Moreau. She's been on like NCIS and Cypher and The Oath and a whole bunch of movies and stuff. We were able to get her to play the female lead in the video.
Oh,
and
nice.
This is actually Hans's first attempt at acting. Okay. And it was an amazing. I wrote the script and did a bunch of that stuff and directed it. But the thing that was fascinating was, well, we did the first couple of takes and Hans was doing his best. Okay, I'll give him that, but he wasn't an actor. And it wasn't really coming across, as well as it could. And so both Eve and Arlene started coaching Hans right there on the spot. Arlene got up in his face and they started whispering and back and forth. And I'm on the other side of the room. I can't hear what they're saying. And all of a sudden, tears are going down Hans's face. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's up? What just happened? Okay.
You got a good director there, it sounds like.
She walks away. She goes, okay, roll film. And so we started to film. And the performance was what you see in the video, which is extremely compelling. Those were not fake tears. What I found out was she was actually teaching him how to method act, how to go into those deep reservoirs of pain that we all carry inside of us, bring it to the surface and harness it for the performance. Now, when she told me that as we're going through this, she kind of whispered in my ear, hey, blah, blah, I told him what to do. And, he's actually feeling this. The thing is, Hans and I are really good friends. Okay. He's my brother. And, so I know where those reservoirs of pain are, and I know what caused them. See one of your best friends reliving these horrific times in his life in order to give you that performance, and you can see it on his face, and it's there in the moment. And when you get done with the take, to go, that was amazing. Can we get one more take?
Oh yeah.
I felt like such a heel, but it worked really well. And then all of the argument scenes, which was really funny, were completely ad-libbed. And so she was actually screaming at him instructions on what he should be yelling at her. So it's not really a dialogue going back and forth. She's acting, but she's screaming instructions. Now you yell at me. Kind of
nice,
stuff.
Nice. She's being an acting coach.
It was a fantastic experiment for him.
Now I'm
And
gonna have
then
to watch the video because I've still only
yeah,
soaked up
yeah.
the song. So
So, and then what we did was we sent all that footage off to my very dear friend Dan Reed of the Dan Reed Network.
oh sure.
He's he lives in Prague now, and he and I just completed an album earlier in the year for another band that I have on my label. And turns out he's an amazing videographer. I mean, an amazing editor, I should say. And so we sent all the stuff off to Prague, and he spliced and diced and did his magic. And the end result is the video that is actually the most successful video that we've released thus far.
Wow.
The only one that's done better was and that's only because it's been out longer. Was the video for No Words off the first album, which was
Right.
our tribute to Neil Peart.
Yeah, I want to get into that with you too a little bit.
Okay.
But no, that's fascinating because Dan Reed Network, I believe, if it's the same one, used to play in Chicago a lot as a band, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's
I
only
don't
one.
think I ever.
I don't think this
I ever
world
saw
can
him.
actually. I don't think this world can actually survive with having two Dan Reeds. One only.
Gotcha. Because I seem to remember that name a lot, maybe in the 80s, maybe the 90s, at all the Chicago clubs when we used to have a real solid music scene there in Chicago. Right. I seem to remember his name popping up a lot at a lot of shows. Yeah. So, but I had no idea that he's a video guy now. Is he still playing as a musician too, or?
Oh yes. As a matter of fact, Dan Reed Network just released an album earlier this last year that is just slamming from beginning to end. It might even be their best. And then he also has been, sort of quietly putting out these amazing solo albums, and gigging around in Europe, because he lives there now. And like I said, he and I just released an album under the name Operation Paperclip, and we had a great time doing it. We became pretty good friends. He just had his 60th birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, Dan.
Happy birthday, Dan. I was actually supposed to go over and play with him. I was going to sit in with the band, but unfortunately an Achilles heel injury prevented me from being able to travel. So I wasn't able to go over. The funny thing is, Dan's bald and everyone in his band is bald. So I went and bought a skin wig, and I was going to show up on stage with, just all the hair gone, just so I'd be able to fit in. And it's just a complete lost opportunity, I think.
Well, maybe it'll come around again. That's funny. But yeah, you mentioned Neil Peart and Rush and the song that was a tribute to Rush. But before we get into that, though, even the current song in your video, you're doing some little hidden Rush elements in the video too, right?
It's true. Well, the thing is, with the last, actually, we kind of, in order to get there, let's start with the No Words video. The No Words video features never before seen footage of Neil riding from the R40 tour. One of Neil's very good friends, and his security director gave me all of the footage that they had shot for the R40 tour. And so we were able to do that. And they also reached out to a number of Neil's friends, and they put in cameos. And then we opened it up to fans around the world who sent us little cameos of themselves holding their favorite Rush memorabilia. Okay. And so what happened was all of that money, or all of that effort, went to support Neil's glioblastoma research fund. Okay. And he had established at Cedars-Sinai. And so all the money from that video and song go to that fund. Okay. We don't make any money off of that. And as a result, we really had this really extremely warm welcome from the Rush fans. Okay. They all liked what we were doing. I made some really great friends as a result of it. And we wanted to actually continue to pay homage to, the boys up north. Everybody in the band are diehard Rush fans. Okay. It just is part of our DNA. It seeps into the music in all sorts of different ways. And so with this new video, we decided that we were going to put a bunch of Rush Easter eggs in the video. And anybody that watches the video, go to YouTube, look for Cry a Million Tears by the Grafenberg Disciples. And write down all the Easter eggs that you find, and then send us an email, info@thehighlanderco.com. And if you get them all right, we'll send you a free download of the album.
Nice. All right. I like that. I'll remind people about that. That'll be fun. Like I said, I got to see the video now anyway with you describing how it was shot, put together. So now I'll have to look for that as well. But that's pretty cool that you were able to include that footage. You know, that I'm sure most Rush fans like, myself, although I'm not as diehard as most people, I don't know everything that a lot of my friends do about Rush, but I did read that book, the Ghost Rider book or whatever, when he put that out, because I was so saddened, for him to lose a child and a spouse in such a short period of time. I think it was a year apart, if I remember correctly.
I think something like 8 months.
Okay, so even less than a year. Yeah. And it just, it just hurt me. And then I'm also a motorcycle rider too.
What do you ride?
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, I ride too. What do you ride?
Well, right now, I have nothing at the moment. I sold, I told you we moved from Chicago to Sacramento. And so at the time, I'm like, I got to get cars out here. I got all this stuff. So I sold my bike back home. But up until we had to come here, my most recent bike was a Victory Vision Tour.
I
Love
have
that bike.
I have a 8-ball, yes.
Nice.
But I also see, okay, that's another thing. Neil was a huge, and not only that,
he was a BMW guy.
Yeah, well, so am I.
Yeah.
Actually, when just a little bit before I turned 50, I decided that, my kid was grown. It was okay for me to do a little time out and maybe do a little bit midlife crisis. And so I learned, based on the inspiration in Neil's books, because I've read all of his books. Based on that inspiration, I learned how to ride and started getting motorcycles. And so I have the exact same motorcycle that he used to ride. Okay. I have 2 of them. And so that was really another big touch point with me and Neil. Okay. Now, I never met Neil, but it was just something that I had in common with him and that he inspired.
Right.
And I remember when he passed, I was just knocked sideways. Now, I wasn't really a huge fan of the last few albums. Okay. And not so much. They'd gone in a little different direction. And my main interest was the books and the writing and the inspiration in there.
Right.
So I just remember hearing the news that he had passed and just going, there was going to be no more words from this man. There were number one, no words to describe. I could not describe what I was feeling, the loss, and that there were no more words from a man who lived his life for words. Okay. It was a fascinating thing to me, but very painful at the same time.
Right.
And the song pretty much wrote itself. It was very, very quick. And again, the song is based on a motorcyclist perspective, but I also weave a lot of references from the books and from the lyrics into the lyrics. As a matter of fact, if you listen really close, there's even some loops from some Rush songs hidden as sort of like a percussion element in the song.
Nice.
And the thing is, the other little touch point was Greg Bissonette and Neil were friends. And they used to actually jam at Greg's house. Greg would set up 2 kits in the living room, and then Neil and Greg would sit there and jam on Buddy Rich jazz, swing jazz tunes.
Right.
That shared love eventually became the Burning for Buddy project, in New York. But when we were recording the track, Greg had just finished his tracks, and he came into the control room, and we were running it back off the main monitors in the studio. And I was on a couch in the back of the room. Greg was on a little card table that he works at off to my side, and I'm listening to this thing, and I'm just blown away. It's just we know we've got something. This is magic.
Right.
And I look over at Greg, and he looks up at me, and his eyes are all red, and there's tears running down his face. And I said, "Oh, stop the playback." are you okay, Greg? He says, yeah, I just never thought I'd be jamming with Neil again.
Ah, yeah, that's really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Greg's that kind of guy. He's
Mhm.
just a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, I've always loved his drumming. And then, like I say, that book really touched me, just reading everything he did on that journey. And thinking about that, because I always considered it therapy too. I lost my mom to cancer years before this happened with him, but I know how I felt at the time. And then, reading that, I was thinking, boy, that's pretty cool. And how many musicians are driving themselves gig to gig at all, period, and then on a motorcycle,
Agreed. Yes.
and to have the cooperation of their bandmates to say, yeah, all right, it takes you longer to get here. I mean, they had a schedule to fit that, right? They had to schedule their dates to make that happen for him. And so to me, that also spoke of just the love and friendship of those three guys too. I thought that was just really, really cool.
One of the lines of one of their songs is take a friend and keep them till the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That really does describe those three.
They lived it. Yeah. 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 It's really cool. But yeah, I did want to touch on your love of Rush because, you guys talk about, how your band exists at the crossroads, which I kind of like because it kind of fits with what I've heard, the crossroads of funk, pop, jazz, and classic rock and roll. But then I hear about your big love of Rush, which is, I guess we can call it classic rock and roll because I guess it is some of it, but it's also not that, in my opinion, too. They're far-reaching. Yeah, exactly. So
I'm the guy in the band that has the big progressive rock roots, and what I like to call this band is progressive rock that your girlfriend will like. Because it is very, very accessible. It tells stories. We're not talking about unicorns and wizards and things like that. We're talking about real life situations, telling stories, getting people. We're telling stories, but we're doing it in a way that's very accessible. It's like music comfort food. Okay. It's, one guy once described Hans's voice as like a warm blanket.
I can see that.
Just a warm blanket. And I have to agree with them.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, the attention on Hans has actually gotten to be a bit of a joke within the band. He now has a nickname, and it's Marcia. We call him Marcia.
Marcia. Why Marcia?
Just because of Marcia.
Yeah,
always about Marcia.
I thought that's where you were going, but
so we were in the studio one time, and we had a bunch of famous drummers in. Things we were filming. Actually, it was.
You already have Greg Bissonette. What more famous drummer do you need?
Other guys that were actually going to be in the video for that song, and we filmed them, got it all done. We had some extra time in the studio, and so my engineer is Frank Rosato. He's a tremendously talented engineer down in Southern California, and I said, "Hey, Frank, throw up a couple of the other files, and let's show these guys what we just recorded." And so they start playing back a couple of the songs, and they're like, wow, that's an amazing vocal take. Listen to that voice. And Hans was there, okay? And he's just kind of sitting there, you see his head visibly getting larger.
He's not getting out the door.
Right? and I'm sitting there, and all the attention is on the vocal performance. All the attention is on the voice. And I'm going, what about the lyrics? What about the song? What about the bass playing? Aren't I pretty too? Oh man,
they're called frontmen for a reason.
Yes, this is true. It's also known as LSD.
Yes, there is a lead singer disease. Yep. For sure. But in a case like his, though, rightfully so. Yeah. I have trouble with LSD when the voice doesn't live up to it, but certain guys you can make you can make exceptions.
The thing is, when you're working with him, it's not the case. He pitches in, he does everything that's necessary. He is extremely easy to work with in the studio. It's just, he's a great guy. So we don't, there's a joke that says how many lead singers does it take to screw in a light bulb?
I haven't heard this one, so go ahead.
Just one. They just hold the light bulb and the world revolves around them. Okay?
Maybe I have heard that in the past.
But that's really not Hans. He is one of the most humble guys you could ever meet. Okay.
Yeah.
And, we do have a gig coming up
Yep.
April 7th at the Auburn State Theater here in Northern California.
April 7th.
April 7th.
Okay.
Coming up fast. And I literally cannot wait to be sharing the stage with these guys, in particular Hans, because I've seen him in other bands. And he is a Michael Hutchence level frontman. Not only does he have the voice, but he has the stage presence to match. And so people in the audience are in for a real treat. They are just going to be blown away by what this guy can do.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna have to check that out. Not too far for me, so I'll have to go check that out. Well, that's good because I had that on the list too to make sure we talk about that. Live dates, and then social media. You guys are probably at all the social medias as the Grafenberg Disciples, I assume, for people to check you out. And then your website is thegrafenbergdisciples.com. And then I did want to touch on the name of your band because when I first heard it, as I told you, it's new to me. And it didn't hit me at first, but I was like, that's an unusual name for a band, the Grafenberg Disciples. And then after some pondering as to why would you name the band the Grafenberg Disciples, because then when I saw the names of all the members of the band, it's not anyone's last name. Then it hit me. A man that I heard about when I was a teenager, a Dr. Grafenberg. And for those that don't know, if this really exists, because I think it's always been kind of questionable if it's real or not, but the so-called G-spot, he is the man that apparently found this and was the first to talk about it, is what I kind of remember from when I was a teenager. And then, so I thought that's got to be it, because then I went back to check out your first album and discovered that it's called Johnny on the Spot. So I'm thinking these two things have to tie in together, but I wanted to make sure I asked you that.
Absolutely. All the bands that I have sort of jokes in the title. We take the music very, very seriously, but the band itself is full of a bunch of goofballs. Okay, we're just having fun with this stuff. And so I remember, and by the way, kudos to you, and I bet your wife is a very happy woman.
We'll have to ask her.
Okay. You would be amazed at how many, even women, you say, well, have you ever heard of Dr. Grafenberg? And they're like, huh? Well,
the guy died in the 50s.
Actually, yes, he did. Yes, he did. He did die.
That's what I was told when I was a kid. I know that.
So here's the funny thing. This points to male hubris and misogyny. Okay, let's just call it what it is. The fact that this Austrian gynecologist in the 1950s, this is not that long ago, okay, this is the early 50s, discovered this portion of the female anatomy and decided that it was appropriate for him to plant his flag on it and name it after himself.
Yep.
And I could just imagine all over the world all these women going, oh, yes, honey, that's very nice. Let's put that on the refrigerator with the drawing you did of Aunt Judy last week, okay? Right? And the thing is, we've all been looking for it ever since.
Right.
And
maybe or maybe not finding it. We don't know. We don't know.
Depends. But you figured that would be sort of one of the highest goals that we can attain, we can dedicate our lives to, is to being Grafenberg Disciples.
That is hilarious. That is just hilarious, because band names are not easy to come up with.
No.
And this one, that I'm glad to know that is what it was all about, because I'm like, that's a very thoughtful name to come up with, right? I mean, that because like you said, a lot of people don't even know about this guy.
No.
I remember it was my friend Jerry Barker that told me about this guy when we were teenagers. Otherwise, I never heard of him either. So that's hilarious. Okay, well, we cleared that up. All right, so before we wrap up, I want to just mention again, so the single, which I am going to append to this interview, so you guys watching this or listening to this, if you didn't hear the song on our music show, you're going to hear it at the end of this interview. So stick around to listen to it. Great, 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 great song. You will cry a million tears, perhaps. And then the album that's part of it is included on the album. It's not just a single. It's coming ahead of the album. And that album will be out April 7th, you said?
That's correct.
Yeah, right. And that is called Breathing Through My Ears, not my eyes, not my nose, through my ears, breathing through my ears.
We figure that is a skill that a Grafenberg disciple should master. I'll just leave it at that.
Very good. All right. Is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't, Bob, before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to remind everybody about the April 7th gig. That is actually our record release party.
I was going to say that's a release day. Yeah.
We'd like to invite everybody to come out and party with us. Again, April 7th at the Auburn State Theater here in Northern California, in Auburn, Northern California, up in the foothills. Really cool old Art Deco theater. It's with great sound. It's going to be a blast.
Awesome. Awesome. And are you going to have a physical product too, or is this only electronic?
We are going to have it. Yeah, that's a tough question. No, the thing is, cars don't even come with CD players anymore. Nobody really does CDs. We wouldn't be able to fit the full album on an LP. We'd have to trim it. We don't really like that idea. So what we were doing is we're going to have handouts with a QR code, those little scannable codes that you point your phone at, and it'll take you directly to the website, and you'll be able to buy a download of the album. We figured that that's probably the best thing for us to do for right now.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens in the future.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm still a physical product guy because I like reading the credits. I like knowing where something was recorded, who did it, who was the engineer, the producer, But I'm probably one of the few that care about that stuff.
I'm the same way, but we're a dying breed, my friend.
I think so. I think so. All right. Well, thank you so much, Bob, for coming on Radio Bypass and telling us your story, and wish you a lot of success. And then I assume that right now the April 7th date might be all you have booked, but probably more to come in 23.
Yeah, we're looking at trying to find ways to do it smart. We're going to see if we can find ways to either get onto a tour, or we'll just continue working in the Sacramento and the Bay Area regions. Unless, hey, if there's a promoter out there that wants to give us a chance, they can get in touch with us.
All right. Very good. All right, everybody, stick around right now. You're going to hear Cry a Million Tears. And again, if you want to check out more on the Grafenberg Disciples, that's their website.com, and Grafenberg Disciples at your social media outlets. And thank you to Bob Madsen.
Thank you.
I'm standing in the rain. A classic song weaves its lonely story.